This is the Nancy Stevens Lifestyle Show here on the New Horizon Radio.
Welcome to the New Horizon Radio. I'm Nancy Stevens and welcome to the Nancy Stevens Lifestyle Show. If you've not already tuned in, a little bit about me. I'm a dopamine dresser and today I'm sporting green, menopausal mum of two and a personal stylist, and I absolutely love fashion. But on today's show, and it's a very, very busy show today, I'm announcing a very, very special event. I'm very excited. Also talking about the fact that I do too much. Are you that person? Turkish Delight on The Apprentice, Netflix #1 show Toxic Town, and working with Waterstone's book review, Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. And my special guest is playwright Louise Roche. And I'm really, really excited to announce this amazing event that I've organised with some incredible women. So one of my previous guests, Elsa Petchy, who will be on next week, menopause guru, and my amazing hairdresser, Hannah of HK Hair and Wellness, who is a future guest, we've organised an event. It's a workshop. It's called Embrace the Change Hair, Hormone Balance and Style Workshop. And we'd like you to join us for a transformative and fun-filled evening designed to empower women navigating the menopause. Hannah is going to guide you through all things hair during the menopause, why it changes, how to prevent thinning, and how to learn practical tips to give you confidence during this tricky time. My hair's changed immeasurably since being menopausal. It's definitely not as thick as it used to be, thinning, lots of baby hair sort of coming through. So the tips on how to make it look more glossy and healthy would be so useful. I'm going to be wearing my personal styling hat, and I'm going to help you rediscover your sense of style with a focus on dressing for your changing body shape during menopause. And again, I've been very open about the fact that my shape has changed beyond belief since becoming menopausal, and it's about navigating these changes and what kind of suits you now as well. So I'll show you how to wear clothes that make you feel empowered and confident. I'm also going to ask you, I'm going to set you a little challenge to bring an item from your wardrobe that you've not worn for a while, and I'm going to restyle it for you. So that's kind of a little fun thing. And then if there's something else that somebody else's piece of clothing that you like, maybe we can do a bit of a swapsy. So kind of like a little swishing thing going. I think it's going to be really good fun. So let's find out also why we only wear 20% of our wardrobe 80% of the time. And Elsa, who is a menopause coach and Pilates instructor from the Olive Collective, is going to discuss how hormone changes impact weight, body confidence and skin, and she's going to share some amazing tips on 5 superfoods which support healthy hair, skin and gut health, plus tips to start your journey to feel good in your body. And as I say, Elsa's going to be here next week to talk us through this as well. What Elsa doesn't know about the menopause is not worth knowing. So why should you attend? Well, I would say to gain invaluable tips for your menopause toolkit. Tickets are absolutely free. And I mean, how often do you get a free event? You know, with 3 amazing women, if I say so myself, who are experts in our field, and we really want to help you, as I say, navigate this tricky time. So as I say, it's completely free and it's supported by the National Lottery Community and Places for People. Spaces are very limited, but bring a friend and join us for an inspiring workshop. It's on the 3rd of April at 6 till 7:30 at Further Manor Farm, which is just beautiful, just past Stony Stratford. And if you really want to, if you'd like to come or you want to sort of have more information, drop me a DM, or the link is on my bio to book. And as I say, it's on Eventbrite. It's completely free, and it's an evening, as I say, we can talk about anything to do with menopause and how it's affecting you, because it is, let's be honest, it is a very, very difficult time. As I say, not hormonally, sort of hair, weight, clothes, what suits. So we're here to help. I'm going to talk about, I don't know whether it's something that I've got, as I talked about the fact eldest daughter syndrome a few weeks ago, but I just want to know if there's anybody else who lives the way that I do, in terms of like, I just do too much. So a couple of weeks ago, I actually did too much and ended up in a serious case of overwhelm. I really got myself in such a state. I actually got very, very tearful. And unusually for me, I worked 7 days in a row, which I wouldn't recommend for anybody. But even on my day off, I was kind of recording my show, meeting with friends, having physio on my arthritic knee, and then went to the theatre all in one day. And by Thursday, I was done. I'd finished work at 8 o'clock. I'd done 17,000 steps. And by the time I fell into bed, I was almost hysterical with tiredness. And again, because the weather was unseasonably bright, I thought, well, I'll go for a walk in the morning and get some vitamin D, because I'm definitely feeling vitamin D deficient. And so that added on to my steps. So it felt like a good idea at the time. But obviously I went and did another 12,000 steps at work. And then, so as I say, it was 17,000 steps by the time I went to bed, and I was just exhausted. And then on the Saturday, this is what I do on my days off. So most people actually rest on their days off. No, I book 3 gym classes. I'll do pump, Pilates, and yoga, one after the other. And again, it's because I try and maximize my time. So if I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to go and I'm going to make it with my while, because I think, well, I'm there, I may as well do these things. 3 classes is too much. So I decided that I wasn't going to do 3. I decided I'm going to just do 1. And I actually booked in with lovely Jo from Mind Source Hypnotherapy, whom I had on a few weeks ago, just to sort of have a session and just talk about and sort of overwhelm and this whole thing of just striving for perfection and trying to do too much. And I feel like as I've got older, this is way worse. And I do like to kind of pack a lot into my days, because I don't have a lot of time off. But I don't know if there's anybody else who does what I do. It's just, I feel like when I look at my days off, I look at meetings or things to do back to back, and people say, oh, do you ever rest? I'm like, I do. And I think part of it is because I feel like inherently I'm quite lazy. So if I don't keep doing all this stuff, I'm actually going to stop completely and do absolutely nothing. So maybe that drive there to just keep going is like, well, if I don't, I'm going to stop, going to sit on the couch and eat loads of rubbish food, watch telly, and actually get nothing done. And then I feel even worse. So it's a toss up between feeling utterly exhausted or feeling sluggish because I've done nothing. So I kind of wonder if anybody else kind of feels the way. And I'd had a bit of bad news, and I'm sort of being very open here about my personal life. But I'd discovered that my ex had met someone else, and that was a real sucker punch, because we've only been split up sort of 4 or 5 months, but it was really hard to sort of see that, and it just felt very real. And I know it was the right thing to do. But as I sort of said to Sam and Rachel from Solar Connects, men don't like to be on their own for too long. And I'm definitely not going to rush into anything anytime soon, because, I have to sit with the discomfort of being on my own. And sometimes going home at night on my own to an empty house is really, really uncomfortable. And I just wonder if there's anybody else who feels like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not lonely. There's a difference between being alone and lonely. I'm definitely not lonely, but that discomfort of just having, always had someone to come home to, or a full house, it's uncomfortable. And I'm learning to sit with it, and actually it's not that bad. I'm actually learning to quite like it. So I'll have a bath, and I'll candlelit bath, and I'll meditate, and I'm learning to sort of make the most of that time and forcing myself to sit in solitude and be comfortable with doing this. But the doing nothing is the hard part, isn't it? I think. But Milton Keynes wasn't built in a day. Is anybody else experiencing this? I'm going to talk about the number 1 show on Netflix this week. And I don't know if anybody's watched it. It's called Toxic Town. And it's a strange choice for Netflix, actually. It feels more like it should be an ITV drama, sort of following on the heels of Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, which was such an extraordinary success, if you want to call it a success, in terms of raising awareness and what happened last year, with the whole Post Office scandal. But it's, as I say, I would have expected this British drama to have been on ITV or even the Beeb. But well done to Netflix for screening this gem of a British drama. Fans of Erin Brockovich will love the story. It's a true story of 3 women in Corby in the 90s whose babies were born with limb defects due to toxic pollution when the steel industry collapsed. And the corrupt council were complicit in covering up so basically what happens when British Steel left the area, Corby Council came in and they kind of sprayed the area with this, what ended up causing a lot of toxic dust. And these lorries used to sort of whiz through the Corby town, and the men used to go to work, and come home covered in this toxic dust. And nobody knew for years what had caused these limb defects. And it is an absolutely sterling cast led by Jodie Whittaker, sort of obviously of Doctor Who fame, and the fantastic Amy Lou Wood, who is the best thing about White Lotus 3. She's probably better known to people who watch Sex Education. But they are kind of leading the cast. They are these incredible women who are fighting for justice. So Jodie is playing Susan, whose son is born without a hand, and it's her kind of fight to get justice. And she meets Amy Lou, who plays Tracy, whose baby daughter has actually died, and they realize that actually and they're talking to other women who are going through the same thing, and they realize actually there's a common denominator here. And God, it's hard. It's a hard watch. as a parent, you have a normal pregnancy and then you find there's something wrong with your child and you don't know why, but yet all these other children have got these limb defects. Again, fantastic cast. Trainspotting, and the Full Monty's Robert Carlyle plays the whistleblower, and Downton Abbey's Brendan Coyle is playing against type as a greedy Labour politician who's practically running the town. And Rory Kinnear is the wonderfully warm-hearted solicitor who's working for these women pro bono, as he's originally from Corby, and he really, really wants to see justice, because he really believes this is the case. It's a very uncomfortable watch seeing how crooked politicians, is there ever a straight one, line their pockets, and working class people are having to bear the brunt of these decisions. And it took 13 years to get justice for their children. But actually, the sad thing was that no individual was ever prosecuted for the shocking cover-up. It sounds like it is a heavy topic, but it's beautifully acted. It just shows that in recent history these massive sort of cover-ups have gone on, and it's for acting masterclass. It's absolutely phenomenal. So this is a Toxic Town on Netflix, which, as I say, is a really good watch, but it's a tough one. This week's offerings on The Apprentice. Oh my goodness, Turkey corporate hospitality. In terms of cringe, this episode was up there with the music video one. It really was. Off the actual charts. Lord Sugar did his customary I can't be asked to turn up at the airport, as allegedly he'd been called away on urgent business. Not sure what he actually does. Does sitting in the Houses of Parliament for maybe 3 months a year constitute work? I don't know. And he hasn't sold a computer since 1985. So I really don't know what the urgent business was, but it is amusing. And he does that about 3 times throughout the series. So anyway, so he said that the team's going to fly to Turkey. And I was like, is this a new country that I've never heard of? And I kept saying Turkey. And I was like, I don't understand this. So I Googled it. I was like, is this a new, is this a new country? Well, it turns out back in 2022, the Turkish government have changed the name, unbeknownst to me and I think the rest of the world actually, because they don't like the connotations of Turkey as in the bird. So it's now called Turkey. But it just, for some reason, it really gave me the ick, because every time they said Turkey, it just felt very forced, because I thought, nobody calls it Turkey. I've got friends who've gone on holiday to Turkey and nobody calls it Turkey. So that every time they said it, I was like, I can't bear this. I actually can't bear this. And even the Turks were calling it by its proper name. I can't see Turkey dancing on any time soon either. Anyway, Malika was her usual charming self, and when faced with tasting menus in front of the actual chefs who'd prepared them, not once but twice, she actually said, basically, I don't like it. It's an acquired taste, or too much cumin. You just wouldn't say that to a chef, and they were so offended. They could not have looked more offended if she had spat in their food. Honestly, it was unbelievable. And her arch rival, Mia, who got the project manager role, in my opinion, as a contender for the final, asked her to help with the table setting. And Malika came back and said, well, I'm just kind of out there on my own and I don't really know what to do. And Mia just put it back in place. Set the table. It's not difficult. You don't need more than one person to do it. Clearly you do, because when the corporate group arrived, the table was barely set. There was one fork. The wine hadn't actually been chilled. It hadn't been sitting in ice. Bearing in mind it's 40-degree heat, and there was just no cutlery on the table. So that was just quite staggering, actually. So the wine had been sitting in the sun and everyone was desperately thirsty. Another classic blunder from the other team was a no phone zone. So the corporate client was Vodafone. So they went up into the Turkish mountains, and one of the sub-team leaders said, oh, let's take away your phones. Let's have a no phone zone, because we need to connect with nature and with each other. Well, you could have heard a pin drop. It was so uncomfortable, because, we are surgically attached to our phones. And when you're on holiday, you want to be taking pictures, and, it's just that whole safety blanket of having your phone there. And then when it's not there, it's like, oh my God, I don't know what to talk about. Even if you're not on your phone, just having it taken away just seemed like, the irony from for taking away the phones from Vodafone as a client was just hilarious. Unbelievably uncomfortable. Then when you think things couldn't get any worse, the client had been told that there was only one glass of wine each, and lovely Frederick from Milton Keynes, actually, was sweating like the milk tray man in his roll neck in 40-degree heat, told them that as an international award-winning public speaker, that they should have an eye contact exercise. Basically, It was a staring competition. And again, awkward. So they just had to sit, they had to stare at each other, and it was supposed to be about communication and bonding. It was shocking, absolutely shocking. Again, apart from the music video one, I've not seen a more awkward episode. Johnny was fired because he did absolutely nothing. And I think, to be honest with you, he would have bored Lord Sugar to death. It was no Turkish delight. So this book, The Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors, is her second novel. And for anyone who has a sister, has or had a sister, this is a must read. I have a younger sister of whom I'm extremely protective. But it is true, a sister is not a friend. You're part of each other from the very start. To be honest with you, it took me ages to read it, and it's not because it wasn't a good read, because it dealt with some really heavy subjects, many of which for me were really, really close to home, and I needed time to digest. So it wasn't a book that I could just whiz through. So yeah, it was difficult, if I'm honest. Anyway, the premise is the Blue Sisters, who have always been exceptional and exceptionally different. Avery, who's a straight-talking lawyer living in London, is keeping secrets that could undo her perfect life forever. She's an alcoholic, and unfortunately this is something I've experienced firsthand with my ex. So reading about her AA meetings and then sort of going to Al-Anon meetings, which were really helpful for me, again, was just close to home, near to the knuckles. So again, I had to just read that and then put it down and then come back to it. So that's probably why it took me, because normally I can read a book in about a week. This has probably taken me nearly 3 or 4 weeks to read. So second sister, Bonnie, was a boxer turned bouncer in LA, but one reckless act has driven her out of the city. And Lucky, who is a model, her parting ways have kind of driven her out of Paris. So their lives are kind of imploding massively. And then of course there's Nikki, the beloved fourth sister, whose unexpected death a year before left the others reeling. And when the 3 remaining sisters reunite in New York to attempt to stop the sale of their childhood home by their mother, who is narcissistic, she's just not nurturing at all, and their dad was an alcoholic, so she kind of covered up for them. So there was a lot of kind of covering up, actually, and it was uncomfortable. So anyway, they reunite to try and attempt the sale, to stop the sale of the childhood home, but it's just really uncomfortable, and they find that only returning to each other they can navigate their grief, addiction and heartbreak, to learn to fall in love with life again. This book feels deeply personal, as the author's mother is a therapist and Avery's wife, Chiti, is a therapist. And Coco herself, the author, actually struggled with alcoholism in her teens. And they say right about, and it does feel so deeply personal. It's beautifully written, exceptionally descriptive, and I knew the characters inside out by the end and was rooting for the girls to find their happiness. I won't spoil the ending, but unlike many books, the ending left no unanswered questions, and I would like to read her debut novel. It's a wonderful read. Blue Sisters is available in paperback at Waterstones, Milton Keynes. And I'm going to be joined by Louise Roche, who has written Girls' Night, the sequel, and I'm delighted to be joined by someone whom I've not seen for 10 or probably 15 years, the amazing Louise Roche. I'm so happy to see you again. Louise wrote her first play, Girls' Night, back in 2000. Oh my God, it feels like yesterday. At the time, she was a stay-at-home mum with 3 young children. She put the play on with 5 friends at Madcap Theatre in Wolverton. And a year later, she hired Milton Keynes Theatre for a one-off performance. That show went on tour professionally in the UK, Ireland, and the USA, including off-Broadway, Germany, South Korea, and Canada. And it is still touring in the USA. She wrote a number of other shows, set up her own company, and toured many of them in both the UK and America. Welcome back.
Hi, nice to see you.
It's so lovely to see you. A lot has happened to us both in the last, must be 15 years.
I think you're exaggerating. It may be 10. That's what I like to think anyway.
Gosh, it's just, lots has happened to us both in those time. But you've obviously been really busy, and I remember seeing the original, this amazing, fabulous show.
Did you at the theatre?
Yeah, I did. Girls Night. I loved it. I think I can't remember who I went to. I think I saw it at the venue.
Oh! Now that was in 2014.
God.
We did a one-off.
Yes, loved it. It was such fun. I mean, it is everything that you kind of love. It's a girls' night out basically, and there's lots of pink and there's lots of sparkle. So I'm in for that. So anyway, in all seriousness, tell us about the new show.
The new show. So the new show is the same characters. In the original show, they were in their 30s. In this show, they're more my age. and they're kind of in their mid-50s to late 50s now. And we catch up with them at a school reunion and just really see what they've been going through. And yeah, things are revealed. Let's put it that way. But it's still the same characters, and they're still funny and irreverent and childlike at times. And there's some cracking songs. Girls Want to Have Fun, It's Raining Men, Dancing Queen, a ballad. Do you remember from the 70s, Stay With Me Baby?
Yeah,
D.
yeah.
Yeah, True Colours is in there as well.
So a lot of
Wonderful
Cyndi
World.
Lauper then, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of really good tunes. So...
But the music obviously is a pivotal part of the show. You know, it's you couldn't do the show without music. How do you choose the songs? Because obviously there's a plethora of amazing songs you could choose. It's like choosing your favourite child, and you've got 3 kids. How do you do that?
You'd be surprised, you know. I mean, I think they're all anthems of my kind of age group, and maybe across the age groups as well, actually. But I tend to choose them, you know, so they fit in with the story line, because they are integral. They're not just bunged in. So, you know, for example, True Colours, the angel who's the narrator for the play, sounds a bit depressing, doesn't it? But she's not. She's a very irreverent angel. She's really playful. She was their friend when they were around about 17, and she died falling off the back of a moped because she'd had a really big perm and she wasn't wearing a helmet. So
Love it, so 80s.
She didn't want to leave, so she stuck around, and she thinks that she's kind of helped them along the way. And so she narrates throughout, and she's very mischievous and irreverent. And so she sings about one of the characters who's lovely, the character called Anita, and she sings True Colours about her and saying, you know, that she's very loving and she's very faithful and everything. So they always have a really integral meaning as part of the narrative, a bit like a musical.
I was going to say, because a lot of musicals sometimes can seem a bit random, but if it's a well done musical, the songs, as you say, are an integral part, and they are absolutely relevant. They're like Mamma Mia; they are not just shoehorned in. Well, maybe the later Mamma Mias, but the original Mamma Mia, everything felt like it was contextual. So I guess that's what you've had that in mind.
Yeah, I do. But I spend a lot of time listening to the songs and choosing them. I had a big playlist on YouTube for a long time before I started writing, actually. Yeah.
Well, that's a fun thing to do, though, isn't it? You know, choosing the music for your show. I mean, that's and some great songs there. I mean, as you say, very anthemic songs as well, and very much about kind of girl power and sort of getting out there and just living your best life. And it is such. I mean, as I say, I remember it, and it was such a wonderful show. So yeah, I can't wait to hear a little bit more about it. So. This is a proper family affair. Tell us who is involved in the show, because I know you've got all your girls involved, and I think it's so wonderful that, as you say, they were pretty much babies or toddlers when this all started.
Yeah, they were. So I've got 3 girls, and they're all 2 years apart. And so when we did the first one, Nancy was 2, Estelle was 4, and Megan was about 6. And this time round, Nancy is the angel. So she's the narrator of the piece. Megan is my stage manager, so she keeps me in line. And Estelle is the choreographer and deputy stage manager. And yeah, they've been so excited about it, and they've been amazing. They've just been, yeah, Mum, you can do this, you can do it. And so yeah, that's been right, because it was a huge part of their life. You know, when it was touring in America, we used to go over. It was so fortunate. We used to go for holidays, and you know, and they were dragged along to the theatre to see it, so they know every line, and you know, and but this is a new incarnation, so they're really excited about that.
And difficult question, because obviously you're the playwright, but now you're directing. That's a whole different dynamic. So obviously you're the casting director as well. How do you cast a show that is your baby and you want your babies in it?
Well, when I first wrote it, I thought, because as you said earlier on, Girls' Night is still running in America, and the American producer had said to me, you know, have you got a sequel? And I was like, well, no, not really.
Not yet.
I kind of fiddled around a bit, but I hadn't written for a long, long time. I've been doing other things. I've been doing other jobs, and, you know, just life had gone in a different direction. But when he said that, I thought, maybe I will. And I had sort of started one, but really just playing. But when he said that, obviously it sort of focused my mind slightly, and I started writing it, and the whole intention was just to send him the script, and then he would do it. He would take all the costs and everything. But I needed to have a read through, so I obviously asked the original cast and my girls if they would read the parts for me so I could hear it, because it's so different when it's not in your head, just reading to yourself and being everybody. So we had a couple of readings, and it just became really obvious to me that I had to put it on. I had to do it, and I had to do it with these people. So what we've got is 3 of the original first cast. So the first Carol, the first Kate, and the first Anita. Well, actually, Anita played the angel first time round, but she has played Anita 3 times now. And then, Nancy is Sharon. So, she grew up with Sharon. She knows her inside out and back to front.
That's such a wonderful legacy that you've given to your girls, though, and you've been such a positive role model for them. You've worked so hard, and as you say, this is all they've ever known. This is the life that that you've bestowed upon them. But what a great legacy, and they must be so grateful to you.
Well, they do their own things as well. They're really successful in their own right, in their own careers and all that kind of stuff. But this is just a little revisit to great times when they were growing up, and I think for them to be part of it, for me, I'm so grateful, because we're all doing it together, and it's been women. We have now got a set designer on board, and obviously our tech are men, and they're great. But even them, the guy who's doing the lighting design, he started out, he was just like learning his craft when we first did it at Madcap. He's now a very successful lighting designer, and he's coming back to do it with us as well. So it's like a big family coming back together again. It's lovely. It's
incredible, full circle. And so how many people are involved altogether? Quite a lot.
Gosh, I would say, just off the top of my head, maybe even 30, 35, because you're talking about people picking up sets, you're talking about people designing, helping you get in, do the lights, costume design, these are all people that are helping, really, because it's been done on a quite a low budget.
And the thing is, you don't realize until you are in this industry how much goes into it, because we all, as punters, we go and watch shows and we just think, oh, that's lovely, that's very entertaining, but you don't realize how much work goes in. It's the hard graft behind the scenes. As you say, it's the set designers, it's the costuming, it's those people who the unsung heroes. They don't get the glory because they're not out there like the actors, like sort of needing that praise or that applause, because that's actors do love that, let's be honest, that you're not entirely out there just for fun. You feed off that, and that's an integral part of being a performer. But for those people, as you say, doing those hard jobs behind the scenes, they make this happen as well, and they're just as valuable, but sometimes they just don't get the praise, do they?
100%. Those people who are doing the quick changes that enable people to get on stage in time and organise things, and I can't do costume, I can't make a set, I can't put it up. It's the real skills as well, so skillful.
And I'm very impressed that you've gone from playwright to director, because that's quite the leap. And it's maybe as a director you would get the playwright involved, and they would have some say. Not generally the other way around.
No. Well, it was needs must, really. But it's been a really good challenge. And I've had to kind of get into another space in my head, and it's a sort of spatial, so you know where to put people and come on without bumping in the furniture and all the rest of it. So yeah, it has been a challenge, but I've loved it, and the rehearsals have been so much fun. There's been no funny business. It's just been an absolute joy, because we're all there because we want to be, and we're all helping each other. It's great.
I can actually just picture in my head that the laughs are plenty. So my question is, why now? That's a long time. That's 25 years. That's an apt time, I guess, quarter of a century. Lots has happened. But why now?
Okay, so I did have a go, at writing sequels, because, it was a very successful show. So the obvious thing to do is to try and write a sequel, because the characters hit something with the audience, the format did, the things that they were talking about did. So I did sort of try and write one. And in fact, I did write something called Girls' Night 2, which was okay, but it was kind of to order when I was a professional playwright. And then, I don't know, I think what happened is, like I say, I didn't write for quite a long time and did loads of other things, but it was still kind of there in me that
unfinished business.
I needed to do it. And it was a couple of years ago I started just playing with the idea, and I think what happened is that I finally had something to say. That I, when the original play, they were getting married, they were having babies. It was that time in their life when a lot of changes were happening, and now at our time in life, a lot of changes are also happening. We might be looking after elderly parents, we might be getting divorced, our kids are leaving home, we might be menopausal. It's a time of change and sort of new beginnings. And so there was something to write about, there's something new to write about. So I think that's why it's happened this time.
And they always say, write about what you know. And
Exactly,
I guess
yes.
if you've been through all those things, and, we were talking off air about sort of menopause being quite a tricky thing to navigate, hence, me sort of setting up this workshop with Elsa and Hannah, is, it is such a difficult time in our lives. It's the physical changes, but I think it's the emotional changes that one has to endure as a woman. And I think it's great that you've hit on this, because it's a subject everyone's talking about. Our age group now, we are visible. We're not, 20 years ago, our age group, we were invisible. And I think things have changed so much. And it's wonderful that, we can sort of celebrate women of our age getting together and having fun in this kind of medium. And again, there's still, you do see shows like Mamma Mia, which I've mentioned before, which are sort of women of that sort of age. But if you think about musicals that are in the West End at the moment, I can't think of anything that's anything like this, that is celebrating women of a certain age. And I do hate that expression, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think if you think about it, the life expectancy when our grandmothers was maybe 70, 75, something like that. Fortunately for us, our life expectancy is longer if we're lucky. So we can start again. It's not like we're just going to go into retirement and fade away, hopefully. So yeah, we've got a whole life, and there's all sorts of things, aren't there? The political context, all when we were growing up, and the women's movement, and all sorts of things that have made our experience of growing older perhaps different. And I think that's reflected in this. And this is also fundamentally about friendship and the importance of other women in our lives, and that those, if we're fortunate enough to have long friendships, they're really special as well. And so it's celebrating that as well. It's celebrating women and how we support each other.
Absolutely. And I'm always banging on about women supporting other women, which is partly why I do my show, is giving women a voice, previously who might not have had a voice or felt a little bit invisible, that we are at a period of change. But also, as you say, it is about those friendships and women holding each other up and being supportive, because it's tough. It's really, really tough. And in business, it's tough as well. And I still think that glass ceiling is definitely a thing. And I still think sort of ageism and sexism plays a very big part in the workplace. Maybe unintentionally, but I still think it's there. And I think something like this, Girls' Night, is just a wonderful get together, a big fat party celebrating everything that we've gone through, as you say, divorces, separations, bereavements, menopause, having children, looking after elderly parents, all those things, as you say, that are relevant to us and our age now. And I think it's great that you've written about what you know, and it feels very topical. It feels very now. So I think you kind of you've got you hit the zeitgeist. I think it's going to do really, really well, and I think it's going to resonate with so many women, don't you?
I hope so. I mean, obviously men go through changes as well, but they can write their own play.
Yeah. They do quite well, actually.
So this one's for women, and it's like I say, it's a cast of women and women getting it on its feet as well, and it's been amazing, and I can't wait. We're so excited.
I think there's going to be a lot of bubbles involved with it. Probably afterwards. Probably best to wait till afterwards. But as you say, female playwrights, I'm really I'm struggling to think of many. And I'm thinking of shows that are in the West End. Most of them are penned by men. All the big shows, are penned or produced by, the giants of the industry like Cameron McIntosh and Lloyd Webber. And obviously they're the titans of industry. But you've got a musical like Six, which is written by women. But I'm really struggling to think of any others off the top of my head.
There's some quite famous playwrights, but I think the difference is with this one as well, and the same with the first girls' night. We made it happen because we just didn't kind of wait around for somebody else to do it for us, and have done exactly the same thing this time.
Well, that's what we do. That's what women do. We can talk about it, and then we're suddenly like, yeah, I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to take action, and just seeing your dream come to fruition must be wonderful. We are talking about Girls' Night, the reunion. I'm talking about the cast. Yes. Very important. I know we talked about the grafters behind the scenes, but obviously the actors are the most important part of it in terms of there'd be no show without these amazing actors. So tell me about all of them and who's in the original cast and why did they want to do this again? Because sometimes some things are best left in the memory, aren't they?
Yeah, perhaps. I think for them, I never understood how they managed to go from Madcap. And at the time, none of them were experienced performers. Maybe Alex was. Alex had done a bit. But the others, no, not experienced performers. So they went from Madcap, where there was like, I don't know, maybe 100 people, not even that probably, to performing on Milton Keynes Theatre stage with 1,500 people. It was extraordinary, and I don't know how they did it. And I think it was an important thing for them as well, because that's a mountain for them to climb, isn't it? And a moment, I hope, of pride for them as well, because they did it so brilliantly. And then, of course, when it went to America, I got taken over there as the writer, and I have first class tickets and all this kind of stuff, so I downgraded my tickets and I took them with me, so they all came to the opening in Arizona and we stayed in a house and everything, and so it's been a part, and they've always been so supportive of anything I've ever done. They've been to see the show in all sorts of weird places in the UK, so it's always been a kind of a part of their lives too. Which applies to other casts, it seems, all over the world, the American ones, and also we've got casts coming to this show from Wakefield, because they've done Girls' Night up there and they love it. So I don't know, it just becomes a part of people's experience. Anyway, they're also my friends. Lifelong friends. These are not just people I do plays with. Mandy I've known since I was 15. We went to school together. Debbie's a great friend of mine. Alex is wonderful. Jessica I didn't meet until she was cast for this show, but she's the most lovely person as well. And of course Nancy, well, she's been around forever because she's my daughter.
Aww.
So we're all friends anyway. And I think that they kind of wanted to give it a go as well. They certainly were really supportive when I said, let's give it a go. Yeah.
So that's interesting. So I guess in some ways that works really well, because there's that intuition, that that intuitive behavior, that each other, how they're going to act and react to certain things or in jokes, and you've got the shared history, which you can't buy that, you can't fake that. But how does one deal with if they aren't towing the line, or not, as the director now, because you're the big boss, having to kick some ass? How do you do that nicely? Of course, I
get Megan to do that.
Oh, okay. She's stage manager. Delegate.
No, it's not been necessary, because it's just women working together. There's none of that stuff, really.
So no ego.
No. Everybody just wants it to be okay, and everybody wants everybody else to do well. Honestly, I know that sounds really a bit cheesy, but that's been the atmosphere completely.
But the thing is, everything you're saying is epitomising what this should be about, isn't it? This girl. I'm not a big fan of the word girl power. I wasn't a Spice Girls fan, but what they did do is they did create that kind of movement, and it is wonderful to see women uplifting each other like this, and I just think it's extraordinary that you've gone from playwright to director. I can't quite get my head around that. I'm sure it took a while for you as well, but I bet you guys just have the most fun.
in rehearsals, it's been amazing.
Hysterical.
Because actually, in our own lives, we've got stuff going on. We've got, difficult jobs, or, parents who aren't very well. Exactly the same things that the characters are going through. But we've got into the rehearsal room, and it's music and it's dancing and stupid jokes, and we just escape. And it's been a great experience. All the rehearsals have just been fun. That's what we said at the beginning. If we're going to do this, we want to do it together, and we want to have some fun.
Girls just want to have fun, don't they? So, Louise, tickets, venue, really, really important information. But I just want to just quickly say this show is feeling very autobiographical, isn't it?
Anything I write it's always about me. And actually, the people around me say, "Oh God, I can't believe you said that. I said that." So yeah, I do write from my own experience, because I think that's actually all you can do. That's all you've got, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's true, actually. I was talking last week to my guest, Flora Reeves, who's project manager for Milton Keynes Literary Festival. And we're talking about authors. And again, it is very much about write. That's the common theme with all authors, about write about what you know, because that's so familiar. So even though, even my book I was talking about earlier, my book review, that book wasn't autobiographical, Coco Mellors' book Blue Sisters, but it was, because when I read her bio, what these girls had been through in the book is kind of what she'd gone through herself. So I think a lot of authors do that.
Do you know there's something really odd about an audience, particularly theatre, it being a live medium? I remember there was another show that I wrote called Bobby and Johnny, which is about two brothers who are club singers, and there was a speech in there which actually was something that had happened to me. It was a death that I'd been at, and it was virtually word for word what had happened. And when the character said that speech, there was an eerie silence in the auditorium, and I don't think anybody went, "Oh, that's true," but what they recognise is truth. They feel it, and that happens time and time again when you write something. Sometimes you'll write a monologue and it's true, and there's just a strange recognition that goes across the audience. It's spooky.
It's that authenticity, though, isn't it? It's just, as you say, that truth. And people can spot a charlatan a mile off now. I think we're much more savvy to people who are less than truthful or being disingenuous. And I think we're a bit done with all that, with politicians, etc. I mean, I'm digressing, but that to see something like this that is so truthful and so close to home and so deeply personal, I think is just really going to resonate with audiences. So very excited. So it's going to be on next week, actually, Thursday the 20th to Saturday the 22nd of March at Stantonbury. So there's 4 performances with a Saturday matinee as well.
Yeah.
Exciting. And obviously this is a premiere, so this is exciting, guys. You need to get there and support local talent as well. It's really important in Milton Keynes. We have a plethora of talent who deserve to see your work shown, because you've been doing this a long time, and it's just, I think it's going to be very, very special. I'll put this obviously on my socials as well. Obviously you can get tickets from ticketsource.co.uk or stantonburytheatre.co.uk, but I will put it on my socials. And obviously, is there anything else you'd like to say as to why you think people should come?
They're going to have a really great night. There's some amazing singing. You'll be moved, you'll laugh your socks off, and have a good old dance as well. Oh, and there'll be pink glow sticks.
Love that. I remember that, actually. I remember at the venue when I saw it before, there were glow sticks, and God, I mean, I love a glow stick. I didn't grow up in this country, so I didn't. This was a kind of a clubbing thing that's quite prevalent in the 90s, really, so I'd never experienced anything like that. So these glow sticks, to me, I felt like I was at a club. It was so exciting, and it did feel like one giant party. It was fabulous, a true celebration of female friendship. So I think you've done an amazing job. I can't wait to see it, and I really hope that it gets the support it deserves. And it's so lovely to have you back doing what you're so absolutely brilliant at.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh no, it's a pleasure, Louise. It really is. So as I say, the show has whizzed by. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. Louise has been an amazing guest. Next week, I've got Elsa Pecci on to talk about our event that we're hosting on the 3rd of April. We're talking about Menopause 101. If you've got any menopausal questions, please drop me a DM and let me know if there's anything you want us to talk about next week. You can follow me at _NancyMK_, as I say, or drop me a DM. But it'd be lovely to hear from you. And as I say, if you want to be a guest, if there's anything burning topic that you want to discuss, please, as I say, let us know. The show has got my name on the, my name is above the headlights, so to speak, but the show is for you.